Hello my gorgeous loves out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be finally ranking all of the palettes that I tried last year. I have a lot to go over, so I'm going to give you all my thoughts on each of these palettes. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bri and I'm just a crazy lover of all things beauty. And I like to post a lot of fun and colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot on indie makeup, so if that is what you're into, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. But with that being said, let's get into this video. Alright my loves, I'm going to make this intro quite short because there's 73 palettes to go over. Like that is a lot and more than I tried last year. So obviously I didn't curb my palette spending. I feel like I curbed in other areas when it came to makeup. So there's a lot here. So I'm going to go over them quickly. I probably won't have time to do swatches. I'm just going to give you like a short little review and then we're going to like move on to the next. Now, before we get into this ranking, if you're curious about this eye look, which I think is so fierce and beautiful, I did film this for Instagram. It's already up as a reel on my Breezy_beauty page. So if you want to see how I created this look, I use the Ipsy Cosmetics Fruity Realm palette that just came out with the Fruity Realm pigments. So definitely check that out if you want to see how I did this look. Also, I want to put this out there. Please don't take it personal if I rank something you really love very low, and if I rank something really high that you hate. It's just based on my personal preferences when it comes to makeup, so just don't take it personal. This is just based on what I like. So the ranking can be based on, you know, quality, color story, is it limiting, is it versatile, how often do I see myself actually using it, like those different reasons. So that is about it. So let's get into this ranking. So at the bottom of the ranking was one of the worst palettes I ever tried from ColourPop. This is the Shell Shock palette. This is Chalk City. It's horrible. And one of the shades already fell out of the little pan. I feel like this packaging from ColourPop is terrible. I hate this plastic packaging. The metallics in here are really satiny. They're lackluster. They're boring. They're terrible. I wish I did not pick up that palette, so that is getting decluttered. Then I have this other one from the same Shell collection from ColourPop. This is the What the Shell palette. Also very underwhelming. I mean, there's a little bit more pigmentation to this one, but the metallics are just really satiny, really boring. There's not a lot of depth in these. They're overall just blah. Then the next palette in the ranking is one that I feel like was higher up in a lot of other people's rankings, but the Natasha Denona Pastel palette. I've tried to make this work for me. I just think the quality isn't there. I feel like the cream to powders didn't perform like how her other palettes do. Like, this is my favorite formula for Natasha Denona. So I do feel like overall they're dry and like start to crumble every time I try to like pack them on into lids. I feel like the pastels were a little too sheer. I do like the metallics in here, but this is a $60 palette and it's not as good as other cheaper pastel palettes that I have in my collection. Then the next one in the ranking is from Lois Cosmetics. This is the Meet Me at Midnight eyeshadow palette. I love this color story. I just don't think the formula is for me. So the mattes in here are on the sheer side. They're not as pigmented as I like my mattes to be, and I feel like the metallics are so emollient, almost like there's an oiliness to them. I don't think I'm describing it right, but it creases on my lids really bad. They just are too creamy. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but they just look weird on the lids. It doesn't last on me, and I normally don't have that problem with shimmers, and I've tried it with a glitter primer. I've tried it with a wet brush. It doesn't work. It's just not my favorite formula. Hello, loves. Yes, it's Future Bri. I was editing my video and realized I forgot to mention 2 palettes. So you're going to see my face twice throughout the video because I forget to mention things. So the palette that's coming up now, which is low in the ranking because it wasn't worth the price, and it is the Pat McGrath times Bridgerton palette. The first one they came out with, I think it was called like the Diamond of First Water. I don't even have the palette anymore. That's why a photo is up here for you guys. I actually gave it to my boyfriend's mom, who loves Pat McGrath makeup and also loves the Bridgerton show, so it totally worked out. But for me, I just felt like it wasn't that exciting. It was overpriced. You got 6 shadows for $60. The only shade that I thought was really pretty in it was that blue one in there. The other ones were okay. Some were satiny, and then it had like a nudie brown. And I do like the matte formula from Pat McGrath, but I'm just realizing overall, her palettes are just not for me. They don't really excite me. I think they're overpriced, and I feel like I get better things from like some of my favorite indie brands. So I'm probably gonna stop buying Pat McGrath palettes because I don't think they're for me. But that is why it is where it's at, much lower on the ranking. But yeah, so let's get back to the regular scheduled programming. Then the next one on the ranking is from Kaleidos. I think this is the Black Jasmine palette. I can't remember the name of this one. This is the Smoky Nostalgia palette. It doesn't have the name on it or the shade names, which bugs me about it, but I do love the packaging. This overall is just not a color story that I wear very often. It's a cool toned brown palette. Like, I am a color lover, and I feel like the palette overall leans dark. Like, you see lighter shades in here, but they translate darker on the lids. I do like the metallic in here. I think it's pretty. I just never reach for this. Like, it has to be a day where I'm just really rushing and this is what I see on the table and I happen to put it on because of convenience. But I do think the quality is there. Then the next one on the ranking, which is called the Flowing Haze palette. They finally put the name on these little quads. But this was from their other collection, which the name is escaping me. But this one is a very muted taupey purple palette. It's kind of reminding me of the first one. It just has more of a purple tone to it. And again, I don't reach for this very often. Overall, it's dark. Like, I don't feel like I can do completed looks with this because I need to pull in lighter shades, and not a fan of these quads. Then going on to some more quads, I have the Thirst Unearthly Cosmetics orange palette. So this one overall is just not the type of colors I go for very often. I'm just not a big orange girl, you know. I just don't think to wear that color very often, but I do feel like the options in here is pretty good. You have like a mid-tone, you have like a slightly deeper one, you have a nice black, and then you have this like lighter metallic. I still think it's pretty. I just don't use this as often as I would on other palettes. Then I have this one, which maybe this is the Black Jasmine one. I think the other one was maybe Cold Brew. But anyways, this one is a smoky gray palette. It's cute. I can make some really stunning smoky gray looks with this, but it's just very rare that I ever do an eye look like that. So I don't reach for this very often. I do feel like the shimmer in here, the silver, is absolutely stunning, and the matte black in here is like a super pigmented matte black. So sometimes I'll pull this if I'm lacking like depth in a palette that I'm using for that shade, but it's more like a little companion one. I just don't use it that much. Then the next one on the ranking, which I think I like the color story the most from this, is also from Kaleidos. This is the Glowing Iris one. I like these tones, these periwinkle tones. Still, it's too dark. I still need to pull in lighter shades. I love this metallic in here. I think that's pretty. And I do like these tones, so there's more chance of me using this quad out of any of the other ones. Then the other one is the Unearthly Cosmetics Chilling Palette. These are all from that Halloween mystery box that they did. I really like this one because I can do completed looks. I don't have to pull in another one. I have like lighter shades. I have a deepening shade. I have a nice, beautiful light metallic that can also work as an inner corner highlight. And I just love, love, love these tones. And then my favorite one in the quad setup from Unearthly was the Creepy Crawly palette because I love greens. I love me my greens, okay? I love these tones, and I can do completed looks, and I think this metallic is really pretty. Then the next palette is the Pretty Chic palette from Color Rain. I really like the color story. I like that I have 6 shades instead of just 4, so I feel like I can do different looks with this. Now the only thing is this bougie shade has to go on first. It doesn't lay well over other mattes, but besides that, I think the formula is really nice in here. I think the metallics are really pretty. It has this cool little iridescent one, so I think I can create some really like pretty romantic looks with that one. And then the next one is the Color Rain Wealthy Chic palette. I'm just a lover of greens. I love that there's 6 shades in here. I love that it's a little grungy. This Tales from the Crypto, such a beautiful shade. This like Cash Me Out one is like a grungy yellowy green. Love that one as well. Now going on to Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Paradise Islands palette. And this one, I like how colorful it is. I like the theme. It just overall, I think it's too light. It's lacking depth. I feel like this wouldn't work well if you had like a deeper skin tone because you only have mid-tones, lighter shades, and that's it. Like there is no darker shades in here, and I like depth in my palettes. I like to add some dimension and like deepen the outer corner. So I feel like I have to pull in other palettes for this. And Nomad just has a sheer matte formula, like you have to build them up. So for the matte to already be light, it's kind of hard to really get them to pop on the lid. So I just wish that the color story just had more darker shades in it. All right, it's me again to mention the other palette I forgot to include in the first recording, but it's the Culture palette from Juvia's Place. And I did not mention this palette at all on my channel. I didn't do a review. I didn't do no get ready with me because at the time when this palette came out, there was some controversial things going on with the brand, and I just decided to like step away and take a little break, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing a whole review and talking about the palette. I still think it is a pretty palette. It's nice and colorful, a lot of options. Overall, it does lean pretty light, which is surprising for Juvia's Places. Normally they have a good amount of depth in their palettes. I do think it's pretty. I just feel like there's some redundancy in here, like some of these orangey shades and like peachy ones I felt like kind of looked similar. These two like purple metallics kind of had similar vibes. And I think there's a pressed glitter in here, which I was also not the hugest fan of. I don't like their pressed glitter formula. So overall, I feel like it was bigger than it needed to be, and it was lacking in depth. But I do still like, you know, the shades in here. And I think the formula is the usual Juvia's Place one. Then going on to the Alice in Wonderland palette from Sigma. This one is also more nudie, a little bit more muted, but I have more color options in this one. There's some like tealy, like bluey shades, which I really appreciate. You got some pinky ones here. I think the formula from Sigma is really nice. I like that you get a brush. And overall, I enjoyed using it. I just don't gravitate to this one as much as the other ones that I'm about to show you. It's just not my perfect color story, but I still appreciate the formula. And I do feel like the shimmers are more satiny in here. Now going on to a nudie palette, but I really like this one. I thought it was a cool concept. This is from Nabla. This is the Read My Mind palette. They had it like set up in these squares where you can like create different looks with it. And I like the tones in here. There was like a berry shades, and then you had like these brownie tones. You had some fun little like pops in here with green and blue and some pinky shades. And I thought the formula was really nice. Then going on to this one from Melt. This is the Gemini 2 palette. This one is pretty. It's a little grunge with a lot of like rosy berry tones in here. I just feel like this leans too dark. So this is on the other side of the spectrum. I don't have any shades to break up these tones. Like I don't have any lighter metallics. I don't have anything that really works as the inner corner highlight for me. So I always have to pull in another palette to like, you know, break up these shades in here. And I just think overall, I don't reach for this as much as other palettes that have these shades that also have lighter shades in it. Then the next one in the ranking is from Lunar Beauty. And honestly, I think I'm ranking this lower because I had different expectations for this palette. I feel like it was kind of a mess because I was expecting these kind of vibes and color story and a wintry color story, but I got a fall nudie color story. And I don't mind this kind of color story, but I feel like I have this a lot in my collection already. And because I had different expectations, I feel like that's why I'm putting it lower. I think to me, it just wasn't it. I do think the quality is really nice. Now the shimmers in here do lean a little bit more satin, and it's not my like preference when it comes to shimmers. But besides that, it just didn't do it for me, which is sad because I love Lunar Beauty. Then I have this one from Nomad. This is the Fête de Provence palette. This is, I guess more of their take on like a pastel-y palette. I think the color story is really beautiful in here. I love that there's a shade to deepen up looks. I like the monochromatic rose. I just, overall, you know, Nomad's matte formula is not my favorite. And I feel like, you know, some of these lighter tones really need to be built up. But overall, I still think it's really pretty. Like, I've loved the looks that I was able to create, and I really like the metallics in here. Then going on to this one, and this is the Dragon Fruit palette from Cleona and the collab with Emily Violet Marie. I put this up a little higher because there are some really beautiful metallics in here, and I love Cleona's formula. And just metallics always tend to have my heart. Now, a lot of shades in here do lean satiny, which is not my favorite. And then there's like so many pinky shades that look very similar on the lids. That's why this is not being ranked higher. Now, if it was full of like a bunch of different colors with the like extra sparkly shades, I think I would love it even more. And I do appreciate these two like highlighter shades. They're really pretty highlighters. So overall, I like it. I just wish that there was more variety in here. Almost wish that they maybe had included some mattes and didn't have so many satins, because I don't know, satins just don't do it for me. Now going on to this palette, which I thought was actually really good and fun. This is the Sugar Drizzle, is it the Butterfly palette? I think that's the name of this one. It's like giving me Mardi Gras vibes, but I thought overall this was really nice. I think the metallics are so beautiful in here. I think the mattes overall are really nice as well. I just think it was a fun palette. I love the looks that I was able to create, and I think I love most about it is the metallic formula. Then I have the other Sugar Drizzle palette. I think this is the Dragonfly one. I thought the color story was a little bit more interesting in this one. It's just different. Like, it inspired me. It made me create different looks and come up with different stuff. I love like this bright green. I think the metallics in here are really pretty. I love that there's a matte black. Just overall, I think this color story appeals to me more. Then I have the Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Hudson Valley palette. I thought this was really beautiful from Nomad. It's such a beautiful fall palette. It's like the perfect fall color story. And I like how the rows are set up. I love these greens too. I feel like they're very unique greens. Like these cool tone greens are in here. I have like lighter shades to work with, these grungy tones. Like overall, the theme, everything I thought was well executed. And I do feel like the mattes in here are more pigmented than some of their other palettes. Now I have the Unearthly Cosmetics Rudo Romai palette. This was a collab with Cheapo Gray. This one's really fun. It's colorful. I like the monochromatic rose. I just feel like this overall is a very typical colorful palette. And I have a lot of colorful palettes in my collection. So I feel like I don't gravitate to this one as much because I just have too many options with this color story, but I still think it's really pretty. It's the usual good formula from Unearthly. Like the mattes were nice, the metallics were pretty, and overall I do think it was a nice collab. I just think it wasn't as inspiring as like other palettes that I've tried. Then I have the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette. I think this one is really pretty because it has all of the grungy tones. It has a lot of beautiful mattes in here, and I do love the matte formula from Melt. It's very pigmented, which is what I love. Now overall, it's still dark. Like I do have to pull in lighter shades to break it up and have an inner corner highlight, but I just really love the tones, and I love that they're mostly matte because that's the formula I appreciate the most from Melt. Then I have this one from Menagerie. This is the Claws palette. I really like this one. Overall, it's light. Like I do need more depth, but I love the metallics in here. And I do feel like the mattes, even though they're on the lighter side, had really good pigmentation. But I think it's the metallics that made this like higher up for me. I don't know, those metallics are just goals right there. And then the next one is the Batty Bean and Shroud collab. This is the Hello Bean palette. Thought this was really nice. Love the grungy tones. I love this black flame shade the most. I thought the mattes were nice. You had good amount of depth. And then I had these cool little orangey shades. I feel like I don't reach for these ones as often as I reach for the green ones, but overall, super cute palette. Then the next one is from Give Me Glow. This is the Haunted Pumpkin palette. I think I just love the theme of this one. I love the colors, the imprint. I really love the look that I was able to create. It was so fun, but I do feel like I can do a lot. Like I could do a more greeny look. I can do something more nudie. I could do something more orange, or I could just mix up the shades. Now this one is dark. I do have to pull in lighter metallics as an inner corner highlight, but I don't know, something about this I think is so fun, and I thought the formula was really good on this. Then going on to this one from Cindy Grace. This is a collab with the Fancy Face. This is beautiful. It's got a lot of color, some more jewel tones. I think the mattes are excellent in here, and I love this shade, the coconut shade. I use this all the time as an inner corner highlight and will pair with other palettes. Now the metallics in here are more like traditional satiny foiled shades. They're not extremely like impactful, but they're still really nice, and some of them had cool little shifts. I do like this grape nut shade right here. That's like this taupey one. I thought the Dr. Bird one was nice. And I think overall it was just a nice versatile color story. You can come out with a lot of different looks on this one. Then going on to another Menagerie palette. This is the Pause palette. And I really like this color story. And it's because I'm a sucker for greens. I love blues. I think the metallics are really pretty. I love this Chew Toy shade. And I like that there was depth in here. Overall, I can do completed looks with this. And the mattes had really good pigmentation in this one. And then going on to another Menagerie palette, the Sugar High one. This one is so cute. And the metallics, I'm telling you, metallics always make me so, so happy. They're so beautiful. They're so smooth. They're so creamy. You have lighter shades for inner corners. I think the mattes had good pigmentation. I do wish that maybe there was one deeper matte in here, but it's okay. I can pull another palette. I just overall thought this was such a cute, fun, well done palette. Then the next palette in the ranking is the Adept Cosmetics House of Ale palette. And the reason why this is higher up on the ranking and went over so many other palettes is because the metallic formula is so good from Adept Cosmetics. They're so special in every way possible. Like, I can't get enough of their metallic formula, and I just thought the shades were really pretty in here. Now, it's not a complete palette for me. I do have to pull in other things to get the depth and, you know, break up the palette, but overall I'm still really impressed with the formula, and I thought the mattes actually were really good in this. Now going on to this one from Beauty Bay, which this surprised me at how good this was, and it's so affordable. And I think the tones in here are beautiful. Even though this is more of a monochromatic palette, I do feel like I can create a lot of different looks with this, which is surprising for a monochromatic palette. But I could do something mauve-y. I can go really bright and hot pink. I can do a plummy look with this one, or a light pink one. There's depth in here. There's mid-tones. There's like lighter shades. And the quality was surprisingly so good on this palette. Like, I was shocked at how good this was, because I didn't like the Wilderness palette, but this is a good one. Then going on to another berry palette, and I think the formula is so good in this. This is from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Sleepover palette. I think this is like my perfect berry palette. It's not overwhelming. It has just it has just the right amount of shades that I need. It has the depth. It has, you know, beautiful metallics, inner corner highlights, and I do feel like I could do something a little bit more browny, plummy, or I could go a little bit more brighter pink. I think there's like a good variety in here. Quality is excellent as well. I love the packaging. I love Unearthly. They will always have my heart. And then the next one, which is a more purpley palette, but I think this is so good. This is from Lethal Cosmetics. This is their, is it Night Flower palette? I thought this was one of their best. I think the mattes in here are really nice. It had a good range. I think the metallics in here too are really pretty, super sparkly. I love like this like lavender shade. I love this one. It's like a pink and gold shifty one. And I just think the color story, the execution of this one was really good, and just one of my favorites from Lethal. Then I have the Midnight palette from Beauty Bay in the same like little series that they came out with. Also has a good variety of shades. I like that there's both blue and purples in here. There's depth, there's mid-tone, there's these beautiful little pastels. And I can, you know, go super like dark blue or super dark purple. I can do something a little lighter. I like that they're just a breakup of tones. I can do something a little bit more like light and pastel-y. So I just really love this. This one went higher up in the berries because I prefer blues and purples over berry shades. Then I have the Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Bunnies palette. Now this is a really good pastel palette, and this was way more affordable than the Natasha Denona one. They're so good. They're so pigmented. I love the matte formula from Unearthly. I think the metallics in here are so beautiful too. I love these tones, and if I'm gonna reach for a pastel palette, I'm gonna reach for this one because the quality is so good and it's just so fun and springy. I can't wait for spring to come so I can use this. Even though, I mean, I could use this any time of the year. Then I have the Beauty Bay Earthy palette, and this is such a beautiful green palette. Such a such a perfect monochromatic green palette as well, because like I said, with their palettes, you can do different things with them. I can go a little bit more olive and grungy. I can do like a grass green, and then there's like this beautiful silver if I want to do like a really cool tone green. So I like that. I think the formula was excellent. Love the breakup of shades in here. I have everything that I need. It's my perfect little green palette. Then the next palette is from Lethal. This is the collab with Teresa is Dead, the Teresa is Lethal palette. I think this is absolutely stunning. Like, Teresa did such an amazing job with the color selection, and I was surprised at how many different looks I was able to create with this one as well. The metallics too are just so stunning. Like this silver, this like periwinkle blue to pink is beautiful. Just the tones, and I feel very inspired by this palette. Like, it makes me want to create different color combos, come up with different stuff. Like, overall, it's just such a good palette. It was such a good collab. Then going on to Lethal again, this is the One Up palette. I think this is my favorite. Might be my favorite one from Lethal, but I love the options in here. There's so much color. I thought the mattes were nicely pigmented. I feel like they're a little bit more pigmented than their usual palettes. The metallics are absolutely stunning in here, and then you have these beautiful inner corner highlight shades. Thought the theme was cute. I just liked everything about this palette. Then I have the So Strange palette, which I think this is so fun and bright. It's giving me kind of neon vibes. I really like this one. I had no issues with any of the shades in this one as well, and I just like it, okay? I really like it. I love the packaging. Then going on to this one from Unearthly. This is the 1964 palette. Very fun palette. I like the fun pops in here. I think this was also quite unique color story, so it made me have to be a little bit more creative whenever I use this. I thought the metallics are really pretty. I think these like shifty, smooth, creamy shades are really gorgeous. Mattes are really nice. This is a nice matte white. Overall, I'm happy with it. Then the next palette is from Ace Beauté. It's the Aura palette. I still can't get enough of this one. I think this is such a unique color story with the mix of the purples, some reddy tones, the grungy yellow shades. Like, all the looks I've done with this have been so beautiful. Pigmentation on these mattes are so good. This is the reformulated formula from Ace Beauté. They did such a good job with it. I think the metallics are beautiful and smooth. I feel like they kind of remind me of the Glamlight metallics. They're so beautiful. This halo shade. Just, I can do so much with this, which surprised me and how much I liked it. Then going on to another Unearthly palette. This is the Weirdos palette. Now, I would have ranked this lower, but they finally replaced my Glamour shade that had dried out. But now that I have a new one, I think I'm happy with the palette even more now. I just like these tones. It has like a more muted color story, but still colorful. I like the greens in here. I like the purpley shades. I like the pinks. I like that there's a matte black in here. You have this beautiful like shifty green pink shade. Gorgeous. I mean, I really liked the Halloween, you know, series of palettes that they came out with. I just think they had some hiccups with some of the formulas in them. Then the next one is also from Ace Beauté, which is their Envy palette. I'm just a sucker for these tones. That's why it's higher up. There's grunge, there's blues, there's greens, there's everything that I love about eyeshadows in this palette, so that is why it's the next one up. Then the next one on the ranking is the Don't Be Jelly palette from Unearthly. I love this because of the metallics, that's why it's pretty high up there, but overall it's on the darker side. I do have to use this as a companion palette, but I think the shades in here are really special, super beautiful, super jewel tone, and I've used this a lot, especially this shade has a dip in it. Just the shades are so good, like the formula. Then the next palette is from Blend Bunny, which is a beautiful, more rainbow color story that has some more like jewel tones in it. So it has like the primary colors in it. But I love how Blend Bunny sets up their palettes. I just love the monochromatic rose. I like that they had these two mattes in here. I just wish that this matte white had a little bit more pigmentation as well as their pastels, but everything else I loved about it, and I can create so many different looks with this one. I just like that I have so many different options in here. Then going on to the next one, which is from Glaminatrix. This is the Glamorous palette. I think the color story is really pretty. beautiful. Glaminatrix has a amazing eyeshadow formula. Their mattes are so pigmented but blendable. They have all these beautiful like sparkly metallics and shifty shades. So overall, I'm just really impressed by Glaminatrix. Then I have the Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Warms My Blood palette. I think this is one of the most beautiful, most glamorous, like nudie palettes that I have, but it still has like some purples and some reds. So it's not like a super nudie palette. I can do a lot with this. Now, I did discover that this Century shade has dried out. Someone told me in the comments to check that out, and it is dried out. So I did reach out to Unearthly to have it replaced. And I know that like a lot of people had issues with that, but I do like that Unearthly has great customer service and is handling that with grace and getting me a new shade. But besides that hiccup, all of the other metallics are so beautiful in here, and the mattes are so good. And this matte white, so pigmented. And then I also have the Nearly Natural palette. This is so good, so glamorous, and so beautiful. The metallics in here are gorgeous and sparkly. The mattes are excellent, but you do have a little twist in here. There's some olivey tones in here, some like pinky mauvey tones in here. So it's not a one-trick pony. I can do a lot, and I love this stripped back silvery shade to do like cool tone looks. You can do just so much. It's so beautiful. Then going on to a Blend Bunny palette, the All Done Up palette. I like that they did a little bit of a smaller palette. I like the tones in here. It's a little grungy, a little nude. We got some muted greens. We got these shades right here that I can make smoky gray look. So I would totally reach for this palette over like that Kaleidos like quad, because I don't know, I like this better. I like that I have a lot of options. Then going on to the next palette, which is from Ipsy Cosmetics. This is a cool summer palette. I freaking love this palette, guys. It is so fun. It's so summery. I think the metallics in here are so beautiful. That's what I think I love the most about it. But I do think the matte formula was nice in here, and I was able to create so many looks. Like I love that I have some greens, these blues, these pinky shades. I think the pastels had good pigmentation, and just the shimmers, they just get me every time. Like this Blueberry Pop shade is so pretty. This Summer Nights shade is so pretty. I just think it's a good selection, and I think Ipsy just did an amazing job with this palette and with their matte formula. Then the next palette is also from Blend Bunny. I was just so impressed by this Dollhouse palette. I still love using this. I've used it a ton. I've traveled with this one. I think this is one of the best like nudie palettes that I have in my collection. I just love that there is some color. There are some muted tones. You have so much depth. You have these beautiful metallics. You have all these different shades you can use in the inner corner highlight. You got like some lighter shades to do like blending on things. I just think the tones in here are just so stunning. I love this. Like, can't get enough. I've used this so much. Then the next one on the ranking is from Terra Moon's Cosmetics. This is a Cosmic Wanderer palette. Now I think the formula is top notch in this. The mattes are pigmented, the metallics are beautiful and sparkly. The only thing with this one is I feel like some of the shades are just too similar. Like these green ones are too similar. They look the same on the eyes. And then these two blues. I mean, this one has some sparkle in it, but overall it's gonna look the same on the eyes. I just wish that maybe those shades were switched out with something else. But besides that, I was really impressed with this one. Then the next palette is from Gourmand Girls. This is the Spook palette. It was a collab with Doodles by the Bunny. I think she did an excellent job with this. I think both the mattes and the metallics are really beautiful. And I just discovered this brand last year, and I was really impressed by them. And I definitely want to try more from Gourmand Girls, because I think the packaging, everything, the shades, the metallics, some of them are shifty. I like this matte white. It's excellent. If you can make a good pigmented matte white, then you can do anything. And that's how I feel. I love like you can go nudie or really colorful and bold. So this was just excellent. Then going on to Glaminatrix. This is the Nocturnal palette. It's such a beautiful grungy palette. I think it's just so beautiful. I love these tones. I love the metallics. I love the range. Just everything is perfect about this one. Then going on to Nomad, which this one's pretty high because I thought this was such a good palette. This is the Monteverde Cloud Forest palette. Beautiful, grungy, tons of greens. You got some depth. I think the mattes performed really well in this one as well. And I just love these metallics. Like this one right here is like pink shift, but it's like an olive to pink. These other green ones, they're just so good. Then the next palette, which is from Nomad, which I think is my most favorite palette from Nomad. This is the Whistler Snow Lodge palette. I've traveled with this because I think the color story is so beautiful. I like the options in here. I like the metallics. I think the mattes performed well. I love this ski bum shade. I love these green tones that are in here. I love that I can do something more dark chocolatey and bronzy. I can do something red, or I can just mix them up. Like, I don't know, the color story just really appeals to me. I feel inspired whenever I look at it, and it makes me happy. I think the theme is cute too. Then the next palette is the Vitality palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. Beautiful, fun, colorful palette, good options, good quality, everything's excellent. Then the next one is another new brand that I tried last year. This is the Beaute Bar times M. Jones palette. So this was their collab. This is the Celestial Garden palette. I found this so innovative, like how they set this up. There's a matte roll, there's these beautiful metallics, and there's split cake liner pans down here, and then this beautiful multi-chrome to use as the inner corner highlight. I just love that, and the cake liner formula is so good in here. I thought the mattes were nice. I really love the metallics from them. They're so sparkly and foiled. And I just think they just did a good job. Like M. Jones really killed it with these shade options. Then the next one is from Glamlight. This is the Michaela Pot 2 palette. I love the tones in here. If you're going to give me a full green, grungy, blue, and purple palette, then I'm going to love it. Like, I can't help but love this color story because these are the kind of shades I love to use. I think Glamlight has an excellent formula. I love the metallics in here. I love the options. Just, it's a good one. I like this one more than their first collab that they did together. Then I have the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes. Wow, guys, a lot of people have raved about this, and for a good reason. This is such an affordable palette with such high quality shadows in here. The mattes are good. The shimmers are good. The shade options are good. Like the pastels, the everything about this. This is just so inspiring. Like when I look at this, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to do more looks. I want to do like more with it, and it makes me want to pull for it, and which is hard for a palette to do for me since I have so many options. So I have to like stop myself from wanting to reach for this constantly. Then I have this one, which is the Ultimate Glam Shimmer palette. This is the Minka palette from Adept Cosmetics. Do you see this? All these tones are so beautiful. This is so foiled. This is so great for a nudie lover, but you got some pops of color. You have these two good mattes, and Adept just kills it with their metallic formula. I love how foiled and intense they are. Now, they're on the thicker side, which I know not everybody loves, but I don't mind that. I'd rather have it be more foiled and thick than to be more shiny. I love these. These are like so good. If I want to do a super glam look, that is the palette I'm going for. Then the next palette is also from Adept Cosmetics. This is the Heather Austin palette. I'm so happy for Heather Austin. She did such a good job with this collab. I love the shade options. You have a little bit more mattes in here. You have some beautiful like grungy tones, some berry tones, and then all these beautiful metallics that are in the amazing Adept Cosmetics formula. I think this is so good. I've used this a lot. I've created a whole rack of looks with this, and I'm just inspired by it. I just think it's beautiful. I just put my nail on one of the shadows so hard. Why am I such a klutz? We're gonna ignore that. Now going on to the other collab palette, which is the Heya palette. This is the collab with Udenzai and Angelica Nikovic. I think she did an excellent job. And I just love the mattes in here. I love the tones, the grunge. I adore this complete shade. It's my most favorite like black metallic. I love this river shade. There's like dual chromes, like multi-chromes in here. This beautiful Venom shade right here, like a limey green. I love using it in the inner corner. And I just think it's such a unique color story. It is very inspiring. I just want to, try different combos every time I use this. And all the looks I've done with this have been so beautiful, at least in my opinion. I've loved everything I've ever created with that palette. Then the next one is the Danessa Myricks palette. This is full of beautiful multi-chromes, some like flake multi-chromes, and some water-activated multi-chrome liners. I've talked about this one. I raved about it quite a bit because I was so impressed by how creamy and shifty the shades are in here. The reason why I didn't rank this like super high is because it is a pricey palette, but I mean, the shadows are still beautiful, but it's $120. And I have like another few metallic palettes that I'm going to show you that are cheaper that I think are just as good as this one, but it's still a stunning, stunning palette. If you're looking for some special shades in one palette, I don't think you can go wrong with it. And I mean, I still do think it's worth the price because multi-chromes can be quite expensive to buy a single, so I do think you're still saving. Then the next one is the Beaute Bar Angles of Illumination Volume 3 palette. This is full of beautiful shimmers. They're just as good as the one from Danessa Myricks, but this is cheaper than the Danessa Myricks palette. It has beautiful like dual chromes, multi-chromes, very foiled. I like the shades in here. I like that you got a little bit darker ones that have like black base, but you have these lighter ones. Like overall, beautiful, excellent. Highly recommend this one as well. I think Beaute Bar is a really good brand, and I've just been loving all the things that I've discovered from them. Then going on to another new brand that I tried last year. This is the Midwinter Dream palette, which I just tried it at the end of the year, but I've been using it a lot, so I figured I'd include it in this ranking. This is the collab with Brittany Huffman. She did an amazing job. She's been having some really good collabs, but look at these shades. Look at these tones. You have depth, mid-tone, beautiful, intense metallics, deeper metallics, lighter metallics, inner corners. Like it just has everything possible that I can think of. And I'm just impressed overall with the matte as well as the metallic formula. The color story, the execution, excellent on this. They did a good job, and it's making me want to try more things from them. I highly recommend that palette. Then the next one, which blew my mind, which I'm so sad this is no longer available. This is the Sandra Rose palette from Glaminatrix. The looks that I've been able to create with this have been fire, y'all. They have been so good. The metallics in here are so beautiful. Like this Bloom shade is out of this world, intense and beautiful and shifty. This Flora shade, so foiled. Now I did have some shades come broken, but they instantly replaced it. I think they had some issues with the shades being a little too fragile, but they fixed that really quickly, got me my shades, so I was happy with that. This is so good, probably my favorite palette from Glaminatrix. Then the next one in the ranking is another all shimmer palette. It's the All I Ever Wanted palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Volume 2 palette. Excellent, beautiful, super foiled metallics, multi-chromes, dual chromes, regular shimmers, inner corner highlights. I like the tones. I like the jewel tones. I like the lighter shades. Some are so foiled and intense that it's just magnificent. I love this. It's probably my most favorite all shimmer palette that I own. It's so good. I need to get the Volume 1 because I heard a lot of people love that one even more. So to have one even better, that's gonna blow my mind. The Uden's Eye Solmone 2 palette. This had to be on the top. This is so beautiful. Excellent color story, excellent quality, gorgeous packaging. Like look at that. Some of the best packaging I've seen on a palette. The moons, the stars, all the colors, so good. But Uden's Eye is always at the top of my ranking because they just have such a beautiful formula. Oh, they make me so happy. Then the other one is from Uden's Eye, the Merry Christmas palette. This was the best holiday launch ever. This has such beautiful shades in here. It has a mix of different textures. You have beautiful mattes. You have some pastels, some grunge, some depth. Just so much. It's beautiful in every way possible. Packaging, the best Christmas packaging ever. And then number one, we finally made it to the end of this ranking, is the beautiful Christmas Eve palette from Uden's Eye. I put this one even higher than the Merry Christmas palette because these are more of my kind of shades that I like. I love blues and cool tones. I do like that they did add a little bit of warm tones in here, and I just think the formula, excellent, the execution, the packaging, the options, the depth, the lighter shades, everything is so good about this one. Like, I don't know how Uden's Eye does it. Like, I think I have the best from them, and then they come out with something even better, and then they come out with something even better. Like, they just continuously impress me with their releases and their quality, their themes. Like, they just really think out their collections. So that was everything for this ranking. I'm feeling very winded, very tired, a little dizzy, so I need to wrap up this video because I've been filming for so long. Like, I've had to change my camera battery so many times, so I need to wrap this up, guys. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of this ranking? Were you surprised? Would you have ranked these things in different places? Also, if you made it this far, please leave me your favorite emoji below. I would love to see who the true MVPs are that made it this far to the video. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. Now, I won't have all these palettes linked because that is too much, but I will have other videos of mine that you might be interested in watching. I will also have my makeup linked in case you're curious on what I'm wearing. And I will also have my contact and my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_Beauty. So if you want to join my Instagram fam, I would really, really love that. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for being here, supporting my channel, being amazing. I just love all of y'all so much, and I just hope you're all doing well wherever you are in the world, and just sending you all so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.